Hey everybody, welcome back. We're continuing our reading of the Quran. We are in Anbiya, Surah 21. And before we get started, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alright, so on 21, it says, or have they taken for worship gods from the earth who can raise the dead? Taken from the earth, gods from the earth. Notice that this sort of from the earth, not something higher. God being the most high, this being the lowest, to select, paganistic nature gods, which really were sourced from nature, right? A lot of the Wiccan nature cult lovers definitely saw spirits in everything. Native Americans, they did though think that everything, a lot of tribes had a lot of anthropomorphic storytelling, but we don't really get to dig into deeply what they believed because they had the oral tradition and their works were destroyed and many of them are dead and families separated. So there's that. Okay. And then on 32, and we have made the heavens as a canopy well guarded. Yet do they turn away from the signs which these things point to. See, a canopy well guarded. Now, I remember that, if I remember correctly, some people have this theory. There's some people who, obviously they're not Muslims, but they think the world is sort of differently like a prison planet and that humans cannot leave it, right? Now, obviously, the NASA types would say that's bogus, alright? But we're not going to get into that because I don't work for NASA. But it is interesting that some people believe you cannot leave this planet. Like, we could never really leave to go on other planets because there's so sort of like keep the humans contained in their jungle. Do you know what I mean? Keep them contained in their habitat and let them stay there. So the canopy is guarded apparently from bad jinns and evil things, right? But also from humans' colonization, right? Because remember in Greek mythology, there was wars, right? Mount Olympus, you could get to Mount Olympus some way. Let's not go down that road, but it is interesting to think of the canopy as being well guarded, right? 35. Every soul shall have a taste of death, and we test you by evil and by good by way of trial. To us must you return. Oh, see, that's everyone's gonna die. So these people who are obsessed with, I think there's two types in my opinion. There's those who obsess with death, like in fear, like they want to make sure they live as long as possible, they can spend all their money. Others want to look hot and young forever, and they don't want to age, they don't want to let go of youth, they want to stay in perpetual youth. There's a store, I used to shop there, not anymore, but it was called Forever 21, right? Before I was 21, I was like, yay, I feel cool because I'm in the store, and it's just some cheap fashion store. But I remember when I got past 21, and then you get to 25, and then you're like, oh, 21 is like this prime spot where it's like you can do things. Most of everything is legal at that age, right? But again, you don't need to stay in your 21 mindset, your 21-year-old mindset. You're going to taste death. Let yourself age. Let it go. Endless surgeries, endless injections, having an obsession with the future, being able to stop aging. I mean, it's quite crazy. So us accepting, as the Quran says, everyone's going to taste death, make you realize that maybe you don't need to take, too much stress upon yourself. You can let some things go. Don't be lazy, but the end is nigh. And we test you by evil and by good by way of trial. That's one of my favorite themes. Testing us by evil, I sometimes, like I've said, people, we really get into that. And before, I didn't really understand. I used to get really angry when I was an atheist about that. How can you test someone by evil? Why would you do that? Why can't everything just, be good and peaceful? But you gotta see evil sometimes and know it. Some things don't need to be shown. Some things can just be told, right? Some things you can just hear and know it's wrong. But some things, you know it's wrong. Definitely. Really, truly. To us, you must ye return. So, we're going back, fam. So, we gotta think about that. We gotta think about where we're gonna go back and what's gonna be said. It's quite deep to think about. You don't need to despair if you're hoping every day to do better than what you did yesterday. And then on 78, and remember David and Solomon when they gave judgment in the matter of the field into which the sheep of certain people had strayed by night. We did witness their judgment. And so I like that it says like God witnessed the judgment. It's like we know God is all knowing, the wise is always paying attention, there's no secrets, knows everything down to a mustard grain. But I find it very interesting to say that we witnessed this judgment, so it makes you think of the court justices and other types of law firms that these judges, some of them really do get drunk on their own power. And, they think maybe some of them, they'll pass a judgment. They knew what they did was for corruption. They were bribed, right? There's a lot of problems with corrupt judges getting bribed to let off cartel members or old school mafia members back in the 1920s and such, right? So, I get it. But it's good for the Quran to reiterate that passing judgments are being witnessed. We know that by implication, but it's directly telling us in this verse, right? So really makes it clear. And then on the longer one, 79, to Solomon we inspired the right understanding of the matter. To each of them we gave judgment and knowledge. It was our power that made the hills and the birds celebrate our praises. With David it was we who did all these things. It was we who taught him the making of coats of mail for your benefit, to guard you from each other's violence. Will ye then be grateful? Oh, think about that. So this is something that I loved thinking about. Coats of mail, right? So to guard you from each other's violence. If you look at the past, I've been sharing it on my gaming page, but just the different types of armor people wore. And, for the type of warfare back then, today, someone doesn't need to hack off your foot in order to cause you pain. They can cause you digital pain, right? So it's quite different. However, we have our own versions of coats of mail, right? Turning off the devices, muting certain people, sometimes taking a beating if it needs to be, right? Taking the waves of insults, or, learning how to dish it, learning how to give it, stuff like that. But it's quite interesting that one of the benefits that God gave was for security, to protect yourself, to have an inherent right of being like, no, I need to be guarded, right? So notice, God is not going to send angels down every time to protect you. You have some armor that has been given for your time period that you can utilize, right? Very interesting. I mean, that's the power to forge armor, blacksmiths, right, was something that changed the game. 82. And of the evil ones were some who dived for him and did other work besides, and it was we who guarded them. 85. And remember Ishmael, Idris, and Zulkifil, all men of constancy and patience. So basically being constant and patient. 86. We admitted them to our mercy, for they were of righteous ones. And remember Zannun, when he departed in wrath, he imagined that we had no power over him, but he cried through the depths of darkness, there is no God but thou, glory to thee, I was indeed wrong. And that one gives you chills. Depths of darkness, like the ocean. To me, I think of the ocean. It's like dark, just swimming in voids. You don't know what can come from below, from up top, from behind, or what will meet you head on in that black void. Ooh,